Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, right. Let's get into it, boys and girls. Hopefully, you guys are all having a good start to your Tuesday morning, April 15th, 2025, here in mid Michigan. It is, well, it keeps fluctuating between gray and gloomy. And why can't I sign into my chat? Oh, wow. It's just going to be super lame. All right. Well, I can't engage with the chat over there. That's fine. That's totally fine, guys. That's totally fine. We got our backup screen, our test screen over here running for us to be able to monitor the chat a little bit. It is fluctuating here in mid-Michigan between gray and gloomy and then sporadic shots of sunshine. On top of that, we did see a few snowflakes, a few flurries flying around here, which is not uncommon for April in mid-Michigan. Guys, this, of course, is the Hat and Beard Show, and you, my friend, have tuned in because you liked the thumbnail and you said, man, that is one handsome-looking fella. Boy, he sure does look a lot like Brad Holmes, and you almost could mistake me for Brad Holmes. I realize it happens quite regularly, and, I just got to point out, guys, the biggest difference between Hat and Beard, myself, and Brad Holmes, got a lot shorter hair than I have. So, guys, we are barreling down on the draft, and in 9 short days, the 2025 NFL draft will be here. And of course, it's going to be in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And, of course, I'm on vacation that week, but got some news popping off here. As we get closer to the draft and what we've seen last year out of the Denver Broncos, and with good morning, Jeanette Hall over in the chat. So ready for spring. You and me both so ready to be done with this. I'd really like to open up the windows and get a little fresh air in here. Quit eating farts all season long. So what I was saying was, with the success that we've seen from the Denver Broncos last year in the manipulation that they had on getting people to want to push out for a quarterback and get a little hungry, they were able to manipulate the draft board and get the guy they want a little bit. And we're starting to see that kind of play out now. We're not going to talk about it today so much, but news did break late yesterday about Derek Carr will probably be missing the entire 2025 season with a continuation of a shoulder injury he sustained, I believe, against Detroit 2 years ago, which caused an not an ACL, but it's a A joint. Something starts with an A in the shoulder. So who knows any reality to that? We're gonna look over at hey, good morning, Chase. All right, my dude. Hey, bro, I'm a little bummed out. I was thinking about you this morning. I can't. I didn't re-log into my chat on OBS, and I was going to make a poll. Originally, my poll was going to be 1 like equals 1 Chase put the Red Bull down. Because we're going to get you off them Red Bulls, brother. I don't know why, but that really stuck in my claw, or my craw yesterday. My craw. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was like, man, I got to get him off them Red Bulls, dude. Them things are bad for you, brother. So I'm glad you're here. Glad you made it on time, dude. For those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, let's go ahead and just hit this real quick. Why don't you do me a favor and do a barrel roll on over to the bathtub there under the video, and go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Ring that notification bell so that you never miss out on any future content. We are live Monday through Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. right here at youtube.com. And by ringing that notification bell, you can be notified on when you can come hang out, kick it with some of the regular people that are popping off in the chat. We like to keep the chat rolling, heading over there. I know my girlfriend drinks them too, though, and it's also her one vice. It's a vice, and it's a strong vice, but how's this, dude? I used to smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day, and then I used to vape for a long time, and now I'm just a Zyn user. And what I found is it's mostly the habit. It's the habit of the addiction that you're finding. I'm having 1 Coke and a water today. Let's see how this goes. That's gonna hurt. That's probably going to hurt your brain, dude. I'm not talking shit or nothing. I'm just saying that's going to make a hell of a headache for you, my guy. If you've been on them for that long, dude, you're gonna want to go ahead and wean yourself off a little. I'm trying this new thing where I don't have the microphone directly up under my nose, so that maybe you guys don't hear me breathing so much, and it doesn't sound like I'm in here screaming in your ear. You know what I'm saying? I have this bad habit of eating my microphone. So we've done a barrel roll on over to the bathtub under the video. You guys have already subscribed to the channel. If you're new here, you ring that notification bell so that you can hang out with some of the regulars here in chat. Chasing Chase, Jeanette Hall, Mr. Detroit City, Beantown Breakdown pops in, Cody Tilby here occasionally here or there. And it's also a welcoming environment that I really like having you here, and feel free to talk amongst yourselves in the chat. We try and engage with the chat as much as possible. Like the video. That always helps out a lot. And the best thing you can do is just share this video around with all your friends. Now, I totally get it. I myself am not one that would want to be affiliated with myself either. So just go ahead and just click share on your mobile device. Over 65% of you watch this on mobile. Just click share and copy that link down on your clipboard. The algorithm can't tell the difference. See, it's way easier than that. Or if you're really feeling froggy, share it around. Share it around with your socials if you're not too embarrassed to be affiliated with the Hat and Beard Show. All right, boys. So now that that's out of the way, we are going to be talking trade rumors and one position group in specific, that being the wide receiver rooms. There is some potentiality for some maneuverability and some names now. Last night and yesterday, the name really popped up here in Detroit as a guy who could be a surprisingly not surprising draft day trade. Think back to a couple years when the Lions drafted Jahmyr Gibbs and we still had DeAndre Swift, right? Everyone was like, "Oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do?" Well, Brad Holmes packaged up a nice little deal with DeAndre Swift and shipped him off to Philly for a 1-year stint. Now he's in Chicago. At least I believe he's still in Chicago. And we're starting to see things kind of where there's smoke, there's fire. But what kind of smoke are we sniffing out over here around Jameson Williams? We'll talk about that. There's a couple of nice little articles here that I found for us. And as well as the Miami Dolphins big play wide receiver, Tyreek Hill, the Cheetah, used to be considered the fastest man in the NFL. Cannot stay out of hot water. And considering he's on the wrong side of 30 for a skilled position player in the NFL, that wall will be coming a lot faster than it was 4 years ago for the guy. So we're going to talk about some issues that Tyreek Hill has going against him, some potential maneuverability the Dolphins could look to do with him, some landing spots for Reek, as well as we can actually kind of maybe correlate the two stories together. And, if the Dolphins move on from Reek and they don't take a wide receiver in the first round, could it be a potential dancing partner for Brad Holmes? Something to think about. So, all right, boys, now that we got that all out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the show.
It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
All right, fellas, we're heading over to this website here. Now, it's not an A story for most people. It's something that the NFL might want to try and not shine a lot of light on. But they're going to say more, trade rumors around Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill has had a lot of issues his entire football career, right? Stemming back to his collegiate days, he can't stop beating up his girlfriend or his wife. And then, of course, whenever he gets into interactions with law enforcement, he's kind of a douche nozzle, which, look, man, I've been in trouble before. I've been stopped by law enforcement. Hell, I've been arrested, right? Even if you are rich, the best thing you can do is comply and don't be a gigantic douche nozzle. Now, if you are in the right and they are in the wrong, stand your ground. Don't do anything stupid, right? Don't do anything dumb. But know your rights, right? Obviously, I'm not just saying bend over and take it by some jackbooted thugs for the king, some enforcers for the king, right? I'm not saying that, but a yes sir, a no sir, not necessarily flipping out, calmly explaining your position tends to go a lot farther than the way we've seen Tyreek Hill. interact with law enforcement. Think of game day when he got pulled over. Was it last year or the year prior? That didn't necessarily bode well for him, at least in the eyes of the public. And, I actually had this thought the other day. All right, so this is what Tyreek Hill could do. Tyreek Hill is on the wrong side of 30, right? We've established that for a skilled position player. Look at Deebo Samuel and the wall he ran into. Tyreek Hill also has this bad habit of beating the shit out of his girlfriend, wife, whomever his domestic partner is, whatever title he wants to have with that for the time. Tyreek Hill could, he could go from being a giant douchebag and a big black eye for the NFL, a negative PR campaign. I can't believe I'm going to say this. But if Tyreek Hill wanted to turn the tide of public opinion on him, as well as being a groundbreaking character, Tyreek Hill could make all the domestic charges go away, and he could get all of the hype that he'll get for a short amount of time, because we do know that the court of public opinion is changing on this. Look at the mandate that was issued down back in November of last year. But Tyreek Hill could make this all go away if he just changed his name to like Trisha. Oh, Teresa. There we go. Teresa. Yeah, he could be Teresa Hill. He could be the first woman athlete in the NFL, and he could still be producing at a look. I'm just saying that as he hits the wall, he could then transition to being a woman and become a world-class female athlete and make all of this go away. So we're going to walk on over here to DolphinsTalk.com, because I like kind of what's popped off here, and this is going to tie into the J-Mode conversation that we're going to have here in the next few minutes. But the Miami Dolphins are in a bit of a limbo stage, right? They have parts, they have pieces. Unfortunately, they're kind of pulling a Cincinnati Bengals, a New Orleans Saints, a Atlanta Falcons, right? A organization that is on the cusp of being a contender, could always be a dark horse. You know what I'm saying? Year in and year out, they're in the conversation. However, it feels that the front office and ownership doesn't care. If the fans want W's and want a championship caliber organization, they are completely content with just competing, but not being a bottom end team. Does that make sense? As long as they're not last, they're totally content. Now, on the flip side of that, excuse me. Oh man. Trying to increase the protein intake, so I'm trying to eat breakfast in the morning way earlier than I normally do, and it's kind of a pain in the keister. Sorry, so you guys just get to suffer through it. But the Miami Dolphins need to figure out what they're going to do, and it feels like they're kind of leaning towards a rebuild situation. Tyreek Hill, obviously, the retiring of Teron Armstead, Jalen Ramsey now being shopped around. That news just broke, which is great because that takes a lot of leverage away from the NFC North, the Detroit Lions division rival Green Bay Packers, who were actively shopping Jair Alexander. All right, so that'll put a little bit of a dampener on what they can haul for that. And it just kind of feels like the Miami Dolphins, what are they going to do with Tua? Is Tua the solution? Like, I like what Tua brings to the table. But Tua, I mean, we've said it a million times on this channel, and it'll be something that we consistently hang our hat on. And that is, say it with me now, availability is the best ability. And Tua just cannot seem to stay healthy, right? And now that's no fault of his own. Well, to an extent, when you look at the Guardian caps and how the Guardian caps actually protect, the impact of the head from concussions is directly correlated to the area of the head. The back of the head is really what the Guardian caps protect. That is the slamming and the bouncing of the head off of the turf. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of Tua Tagovailoa's concussions stem from, is the back of the head impact on the turf. Think of the fencing responses that we've seen from him on his numerous concussions. Personally, at this point, I'd rather go with a UFL quarterback and Jordan Ta'amu than Tua Tagovailoa. That's not taken away from Tua. I really like Tua Tagovailoa, the individual. I like what he can do on the field when he's there. I like seeing a left-handed quarterback thrive. I just think that Tua Tagovailoa, and I've said this before, I think Tua Tagovailoa is going to eventually start to put his own health and safety at risk, and eventually, I feel like there's a certain number of concussions in a certain window that if players exceed that, then the NFL needs to almost intervene and medically retire that individual. Now, that sucks because I don't like people taking agency away from the individual. But when you look at the data correlated with concussions, when we see what happens to players after years of brain injuries, it's almost at a point where we have to protect you from yourself. So the Dolphins looking like they're probably going to start, let's say, remodeling, not rebuilding. The Lions would have been a rebuild, a true rebuild. When Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell came into the Motor City, that was a true rebuild. The fandom got impatient after the first year and a half. That is a true rebuild. Sheila Ford came out and defended. We have to tear it down. We have to tear it down the walls, right down to the bare bones of the structure. A true rebuild. Gut all the rot out, cut out all the cancer. Move on, move upward. A true rebuild. The Dolphins, as I stated earlier, a perpetually upper middle class, lower end, upper class organization. They're looking to remodel, not rebuild. They have a lot of good foundation, a lot of strong, stable walls and positions. They got a good defense. They have a relatively strong offensive line. Jalen Waddle is a weapon overshadowed by the cheetah. They have the running back rooms taken care of. And Mike McDaniel is a genius offensive coordinator who is one of my favorite coaches in the NFL. So I think the Dolphins are going to be looking to remodel. Real quick here, before we get into the article, let's do a barrel roll on over here to the chat. So even in fake pro wrestling, they have a certain number they can get now before WWE will tell them they have and are done. See, I'm chasing Chase, bringing in. This is what I love about our community. And you, please, feel free to interact with our community. We get a lot of just very dynamic takes, different walks of life. I, although don't poo-poo professional wrestling, I watched it for a little bit, but it's not really something that I know too much about. Chase over here, my guy, knows himself some wrestling. In fact, I want to point out, Chase, again, I was thinking, this is actually why I was thinking about you last night. That sounded kind of homoerotic, but when I was thinking about the Red Bulls and stuff, is I wanted to send you a link, and I didn't know it's a long video to watch, and I didn't know you probably already watched it, but brother, you gotta head on over. I'll just shoot you the link on Facebook. You gotta check out Super Eye Patch Wolf's video on who is Dusty Rhodes' youngest son? Is it Cody Rhodes or is it Dustin? Dustin Rhodes is the older son, Gold Dust. Cody Rhodes was the younger son who ended up being Stardust, right? And didn't he finally win his belt? Like, didn't he finally win the belt for the Rhodes family? And I can't remember because, again, it was a 2-hour-long video. Cody Rhodes, that's right, Cody Rhodes. Yeah, Cody Rhodes, dude. Cody Rhodes, yeah. Super Eye Patch Wolf. Oh, dude, this 2-hour-long just story about the Rhodes family. It's awesome. Cody is coming up on a year as the champ. Yes, okay, so Cody Rhodes did get the belt. That's right, which was the big thing when you look at the history of the Rhodes family, what Dusty Rhodes meant to professional wrestling. And he talks about how McMahon more or less consistently just embarrassed the Rhodes family and constantly made them make asses of themselves after, because I believe Dusty Rhodes was the last holdout of the big conglomeration that McMahon was putting together. It was a cool moment. If you know the history, I watched it live. Right, exactly. Yes, exactly. The history of it. That's what I'm talking about, dude. Yeah, you got to check out. You got to check out this Super Eye Patch Wolf video. It is so It's legit like a 2 hour long documentary about the Rhodes family and about wrestling. It's so good, dude. It is so good. And like I said, so I watched professional wrestling for like a year and a half in like middle school. My brother and I got into it for a little bit. So I know like a little bit about it, but not like that much. I was captivated by this whole story, dude. It was so good. Seeing Cody win the belt was a big middle finger. Yes, exactly. And that's what he talks about, how like Cody Rhodes, it like, oh, excuse me. It was like Jon Snow ascending to the Iron Throne. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of the vibe I got from Cody Rhodes winning the belt, was that it was like Jon Snow like ascending to his rightful place upon the Iron Throne. You know what I'm saying? Like this bastard who got banished and was forgotten, just constantly dogged his whole life as less than, finally achieved what was rightfully his. You know what I'm saying? Rightfully his, was rightfully his dad's, was rightfully his brother's. You know what I'm saying? For all the work that they did, all of what they meant to professional wrestling. This story is just so good. So that's why I was thinking about you and the Red Bull thing yesterday, dude. So let's walk on over, or I'm sorry, let's do a barrel roll on over here. Talk a little football talk over at Dolphins Talk. Miami Dolphins could use Tyreek Hill trade to secure wide receiver and additional draft picks, according to latest report. This coming from Amanda Holiday, posted yesterday. Good on you, Amanda Holiday. Miami Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel knows that 2025 could be a crucial year in terms of his continued position leading the Hard Rock Stadium franchise. Though the idea of the 42-year-old's position being under threat may seem unfair, especially after leading the Florida outfit to back-to-back postseason finishes in his first 2 seasons in charge, this is the nature of the NFL. Think Mike Vrabel. All right, Mike Vrabel took the Tennessee Titans to the playoffs, I think his first 2 years. Mike Vrabel had one of the most dynamic defenses, right? He was able to limp his way into the playoffs with a underperforming offense. And after a couple of rough seasons and a bad front office leading the way, Mike Vrabel was shown the door. Mike McDaniel, as great of a personality as he is, as awesome of as a head coach as I think he would be to play for, unfortunately, the NFL is a business, right? And when the NFL is a business, winning is the only number that matters. It doesn't matter if you win by 1 or 100, right? As long as you have more W's than you have L's during your tenure, and those W's are productive W's, right? We're not talking, WWW get into the postseason, WWW get into the postseason. We need W's, and then we need W's in the postseason. And I've been saying it for a long time. I was actually pretty sure. I mean, we all knew that small PP Ben Johnson, the trader in the Windy City, was going to leave the Detroit Lions organization at the end of this year. It was a foregone conclusion. It was expected last year, and he wanted to run it back with the Lions, right? Same with Aaron Glenn. I was actually kind of under the thought process that the Fish were going to cut ties with Mike McDaniel at the end of last year. I was hoping Mike McDaniel was going to be the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. Last year, his Chargers could only manage an 8-9 record, which arguably could have ended even worse, given the Dolphins lost 6 of their first 8 games. And the deals McDaniel makes now could prove pivotal to him remaining in situ. I got to hand it to you, Amanda Holiday. You write some very interesting worded articles. This is not like reading the boring old, standard press. For me having a 6th grade reading level, you're making things a little bit froggy over here for me. Sorry, just resetting screens and stuff. My bad, fellas. Dolphins fans who feel that McDaniel is the man for the job and who may want to back these ambitions with a wager may want to check out the super helpful How to Bet on the NFL guide, not least because it could well aid their efforts to secure a more sustainable substantial payout. God, man, I am struggling over here. As part of efforts to improve his roster, McDaniel is apparently ready to trade wide receiver Tyreek Hill in order to bring in a replacement, as well as an additional draft picks. It is no surprise that the 31-year-old may be on his way out, considering the stance he took at the end of last season. A move to the Los Angeles Chargers is apparently a possibility, and it's worth remembering that Hill stated, "I'm out," after the end of last season, comments he made and attempted to walk back from. In February, he wanted to stick it out to Miami. Hill made his feelings abundantly clear. I do. I don't want to go nowhere. I love it. My family loves it. Kids absolutely love being on the beach every morning. So it's an amazing thing, man. It must be nice. We are really building something special in Miami. We made the playoffs the first 2 years. Obviously, this year was hard. But if guys continue to buy into what Coach Mike McDaniel is building and the culture that he's trying to build, it's going to be a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. I used to, back when I was doing low volt work, we had a GC when we were doing target remodels. The GC, his name was Cal. Cal was this old bird from the South, right? He's this old guy, like 6'2", pushing 300 pounds, white Santa Claus style beard, and he wore his plaid shirts, and he wore the boss man hat. You know what I'm saying? And he'd come up to you, and, all right, boys. And he'd ask me and Mario what we got going on for the night, and we told him all of our plans, and he'd look at us every night. He'd look at us and go, "Oh man, you guys got a plan. It's a beautiful thing." And he would just go, "It's a beautiful thing." Every time I see or hear the words "beautiful thing," I hear Cal going, "It's a beautiful thing." Hell, he's probably dead now. That was 10 years ago or more. More than 13, 14 years ago. And those two runs in the postseason, Hill was nearly unstoppable, racking up more than 1,700 yards and both racking up 20 receiving touchdowns. Last season, though, he didn't get 1,000 yards, and this is part of the reason why the Dolphins didn't manage to extend their season. The Green Bay Packers is another potential location for Hill, with reports suggesting that such a deal would see McDaniel net Romeo Doubs, as well as a 25 third-round pick, a 26 fourth-round pick, and a 25 fifth-round pick. That's a deal that may tempt McDaniel, especially if he's taken Hill's comments to heart. 24-year-old Dobbs helped Green Bay into the playoffs in both 23 and 24, and last season he set personal best with 13-yard average, more than Hill managed. So, I've seen those two places pop, both Green Bay and the Chargers. What I'd if it came down to those two organizations, I would also throw a dark horse, Dallas, in there. Dallas is going to need to make some trade moves because they have no cap, but I don't know if they can afford a guy under the cap like a Tyreek Hill, maybe a restructuring. You'll see a similar haul, though, for Tyreek Hill that the 49ers got, for Deebo Samuel. I don't want to see him come to Green Bay. I think that it would be a better fit for him in L.A., mostly because the Chargers need that big play over the top guy, right? They don't need him to be the guy, but they do need that big, deep field threat for Justin Herbert, Air Bear there, to go and use his big arm to launch it downfield. And Tyreek Hill could still, he's still going to be a fast dude. Maybe not as fast as he once will, but he can still stretch the defense. And you're going to see him need to transition his career into the back end of his career, right? You're no longer going to be the guy. You need to be a guy, a very volatile guy, and an explosive guy. But you don't have to be the guy anymore, right? So that's Miami. And the one thing that I was thinking about was, as we walk on over here, do a barrel roll on over to A to Z Sports, do not be shocked if the Lions trade J-Mo during the 25 NFL draft. Why and what they could get. Now, if we see the Miami Dolphins go and trade away Tyreek Hill day 2, back into day 1, similar to how the Lions moved on from DeAndre Swift, both the Lions and the Miami Dolphins could be in a similar situation. And why do I think that J-Mo and the Miami Dolphins could be dancing partners? Because what J-Mo has, he's got 1 year left on that rookie deal, the 5th-year option available, but that has to have the trigger pulled on it shortly after the draft. Tyreek Hill, once arguably the fastest man in the NFL, known for his big play, big deep threat ability. If you're looking to fill that void and not go on a gambled pick with a rookie, you could look to move a Jameson Williams in. He has same explosiveness. He's younger. You're not losing a whole lot because he's on that rookie year deal, right? And you kind of bring him in as a prove-it type deal, and then you trade away a second or third round pick to the Detroit Lions. You opt out of the second round, and let the Lions move into that spot there mid-second round for a JMO trade. It's a possibility. Do I like that possibility? No. What I'd rather see is something like the Lions, and we'll talk about it, Lions trading him to Dallas, right? Let's walk into this here. Let's do a little barrel roll on over. Mike Payton from A to Z Sports. I actually kind of like what A to Z Sports does here. I've been reading a little bit more and more of them. It's not what I want, and it's not what you want. Everyone wants things to work out with JMO and the Detroit Lions. You cannot ignore that Detroit just brought in essentially another version of Williams for a top 30 visit over the weekend. Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden, who is considered to be the second best wide receiver in the draft, ran a blistering 4.2940 in the NFL Combine in March. Does that mean a whole hell of a lot? Does that mean a lot? Or are we just putting too much weight in a drill where grown men run in their underwear in a straight line really, really fast? Does that translate? Does that correlate? We've seen it work out for the Chiefs. But does speed always kill? Look at Darius Hayward-Bay 10, 15 years ago. You guys remember Darius Hayward-Bay? Speed kills, right, Oakland? And he brings a lot of what Williams has brought to the Lions, but without some of the on-field issues, like tracking the ball, for example. That's right. JMO doesn't necessarily track the ball the way that we want our guys to be tracking the ball, right? We need somebody a little less dramatic on the field, maybe a little less bullshit off the field. There's also the off-field stuff. For as much as we all like JMO, and as much as the Lions have told us they like him too, you can't ignore the suspensions or the internal affairs case that came after Detroit police stopped him with a concealed weapon in November. Those things might not matter to us, but we aren't the ones who have to pay him when it comes time to do so. Exactly. And this is a business. The NFL is a business, right? Hey, walking on over to the chat, Mr. Detroit City. Let's go Lions. Good morning, brother. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad to have you in here, man. Hopefully you're having a good start to your week and Tuesdays are treating you well, my dude. Glad to have you. Glad to have you guys here. Hey, if you're here and you're just hanging out, feel free to engage in the chat. Everybody here is real friendly and fun to hang out with. At this point, it seems unlikely the Lions will sign Williams to an extension. And Lions GM Brad Holmes said in the league meetings in Florida a couple weeks ago that the team was leaning towards a fifth-year option with him. The deadline to do so would be right after the draft on May 1st. If the Lions were to do that, they'd have to pay him $15.49 million in 2025. And then if he balls out, you have to pay him even more after that, possibly as much as Amon-Ra St. Brown is currently making, in the neighborhood of $30 million a year, which is going to then fall into a very similar situation that the Cincinnati Bengals are in, where they're paying their two top wide receivers, two of the top 7 wide receivers, top 10 wide receivers in the NFL. A cool $69 million a year in salary cap. Nice. Sunshine and tacos here in Florida. It is gray and snowflakes here in mid-Michigan, my dude, so enjoy the tacos and sunshine. I'm getting sick of that fucking cold up here, man. This is just getting annoying. If the Lions were to take Golden with the 28th pick, they could then trade Williams and save a lot of money that they can use to make sure Brian Branch, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Jack Campbell, Kirby Joseph, and Aiden Hutchinson all get paid their top of the league extension money that they're all expected to get. You need to re-sign Branch. You need to re-sign Kirby Joseph, Hutchinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Jack Campbell. Sam Laporta, although I need another rookie year out of Laporta. I need another rookie year out of Laporta, right? Last year was a down year. I need Sam Laporta to produce a little bit more, right? He is a weapon. He is a threat, and I want to see him here for a long time. However, of these names, Brian Branch is a need. Gibbs is a need. Jack Campbell is a need. Kirby Joseph and Aiden Hutchinson are all guys you have to re-sign. Sam Laporta is a guy you want to re-sign. Jameson Williams is a guy you want to re-sign, but a total Jameson Williams, and I've been talking about it for over a year now. Expect to see JMO start to be dangled out in front of other teams because of the off-the-field stuff, because the culture fit with the Detroit Lions, right? We've seen in interviews, podcast interviews with St. Brown, where he didn't want to be in Detroit. He had a sour, shitty attitude when he came here, but he was able to turn it around, and now he's a leader of the team. Now we can't imagine a Detroit Lions organization without Amon-Ra in it, right? He is a fan favorite, a productive player. The story that Amon-Ra has, and you see guys buy into it. It's a culture fit here in Detroit. And unfortunately, Jameson Williams, I don't think has turned the corner. And I don't think he is what the Lions want to invest $30+ million a year into, knowing that at any time there could be an issue with him off the field, right? So you get what you get for him. You utilize him through his rookie contract, be it up, down, injured, or suspended. And then you give him 1,000-yard year his last year here in Detroit, or this last season, or possibly his last year in Detroit, which inflates his trade value to another organization. Ship him off to another team, let them deal with the headache, get some picks, and go after Matthew Golden. I'm not mad about that. So while it would suck to move on from Williams, it makes sense financially and would be a huge help down the line. What could the Lions get for Williams if they moved on for him? If you're hoping for a first-round pick, that's very unlikely. A second-round pick probably would be too. The likelihood is that the Lions would likely get something like the Falcons got for Calvin Ridley, a third-round pick, and a late day 3 pick. A team like Jacksonville would be a good spot. So this is what they're looking here. They project that if we were to trade to Jacksonville, straight up they'd get JMO, and we'd get the 88th and the 194th. That allows the Lions to have an extra third-round pick, which they could score guys like Michigan edge Josiah Stewart, who we're very high on, UCLA edge Olamefi Oladejo, Ole Miss linebacker Pooh Paul, who we're very high on, and Virginia safety Jonas Sanker, the Spanker, and the third. Let's go get us some Jonas Spanker. Let's barrel roll on over to the chat here. Got a little bit of back and forth here. JMO can get out of his own damn way. Can't get out of his own damn way. That is right. Jeanette Hall bringing in some truth bombs with that one. JMO can't, and it's unfortunately now it's proven. Right now, I do like if you follow JMO on social media. This is what This is the hard part about JMO. When you see him on social media, he likes to spend time in Detroit. He gives back to the community. There was a video not too long ago where JMO was at a convenience store, and this old guy was buying stuff, and JMO just came up, and he just bought all his shit for him, right? And he was just like, hey, Unc, tell him JMO got it. Tell him Waymo got it. You know what I'm saying? And he came in, he just paid it, and he spends time in Detroit. And he does give back to the community. But when you're watching these videos, as fun as it is, part of the joy comes from watching JMO's boyish demeanor, his childlike awe, right? He just hasn't quite matured yet into the grown-ass man that he needs to be, the multi-million-dollar man, the generational wealth-having athlete. He needs to clean up the off-the-field stuff and get out of his own way. And if you can't do that, then leverage his athleticism, his 1,000-yard season that he just came off of as a number 2 option in Detroit, a run-centric team in Detroit, right? So you put him on a pass-happy team where he's a solid number 1 or even a number 1A or a 1B. You're looking at 11-13. There's no reason why Jameson Williams, when healthy, cannot be a consistent 1,100-1,300-yard receiver with 11 to 16 touchdowns a year. I said this season that if the Lions do hang on to JMO and John Morton proves to be the down-the-field throwing offensive coordinator that he showed to be as the passing game coordinator in Denver last year, as well as Jared Goff being one of the more efficient and effective play-action pass quarterbacks combined with our run-centric offense, Jameson Williams, I've called for him to have 1,600 yards and 15 touchdowns this upcoming season if everything were to go well in Detroit. So you leverage that projection, get yourself some picks for it, right? Things need to happen to get to this point. Like Golden needs to fall to 28, which is possible. His average set is the 29th spot, 28-29. The Lions would have to decide if he's the guy they want. And from there, the doors are open to make the move. If they do, it changes the way they are able to build the roster immediately, We'll see what happens next. So if we sit at 28, if Matthew Golden is still there, if the Lions draft him, our headspace immediately transitions into exactly how we address Jahmyr Gibbs. Right? We start trying to figure out the package deal. If the Lions go after Matthew Golden, it is a telltale sign they are looking to move JMO. Right? And even if they don't move him during the draft, he's going to be constantly trade block. I don't expect him to make it past the trade deadline. Right? That's how we need to view this. If the Lions do pull the trigger on Matthew Golden at 28, that's exactly how we need to start figuring it out. We need to realize that JMO's days are numbered, and the Lions will be moving on to him. And a good replacement for him would be Matthew Golden. The dude's got wheels, and he doesn't have the character issues or off-the-field issues that JMO has. We got a little bit more talk over here from Detroit Jock City. This is another page that I like to read sporadically. You know, I realize that I'm kind of citing some of the B-tier news outlets here, right? We're not going mainstream. They tend to be a little bit more fluff. And I do find that the B tier, the non-mainstream, the non-big-time articles tend to have a little bit more of a nuanced take, a little bit more of a finger on the pulse, if you will. Yeah, they don't have the insider information that all the big-time broadcasters do, but they do tend to have a little bit more insider information. I can't explain it. They just have more of that, you know, if it looks like a duck, it smells like a duck. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Am I making sense? I don't know. Appreciate you guys all hanging out. Looking like we're doing pretty well here. We're going to be getting into the back end last article here. It does tie into what we were saying, though. Detroit Jock City, but they actually have a package deal here that I'm very high on. I really like what they did here, and I'd love for the Lions to potentially do this. If we were to do what is projected here, what I'd really like them to see is trade up and then trade back. Does that make sense? Trade up from 28 and then trade back, right? Trade up and then get more picks by trading back. And this isn't to say I don't like what JMO does on the field, man. I'm just saying it's a business, and he is your most valuable tradable asset. This is from Joe Summers 15 hours ago. The Detroit Lions offseason has been largely defined by change, having replaced both coordinators. It's fair to wonder if the Lions have already peaked, though it's unlikely with head coach Dan Campbell running the show. Happy birthday to Dan Campbell. Sunday was his birthday. Running the show alongside GM Brad Holmes. These two have built a sustainable foundation. Star wide receiver JMO emerges as one of the offense's best playmakers in 24, notching 1,001 yards, 17.3 per catch, and 7 touchdowns. Nonetheless, recent draft rumors seemingly suggest the Lions could draft a similar player in Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden, which would make Williams expendable. As a result, one new blockbuster trade sees the Detroit Lions preparing a future massive haul for Williams from the NFC North rival. And here you go. Here's what they're projecting. We trade out of 28, move up to 12, trade JMO for a third. Well, I'm not saying these are the picks that we trade for, but we see the Lions moving up from 28 to 12, grabbing an extra third-round pick in exchange for JMO, and the Cowboys getting our 28th pick. It's actually a really good spot, as the Cowboys are good at dealing with head cases, right? Detroit Lions send wide receiver Jameson Williams to the Dallas Cowboys in surprise projected trade. In this projected deal, the Lions and JMO and their first-round pick to the Dallas Cowboys for the number 12 overall pick in the first round, and on top of the 76th pick in the third round. It'd be a stunning move, though there are reasons it would make sense for both sides. Cowboys are in cap hell, and getting that rookie scale contract would be a big deal for them. The Lions already have a bona fide star at the position with St. Brown. Williams has 1 year left in his deal, in addition to the club option, which after he'll command a hefty salary. He's dealt with behavioral issues and multiple suspensions during his time in the NFL, so Detroit may not feel comfortable with breaking the bank, particularly considering he has just 1 year with over 1,000 yards under his belt, and barely that. Mike Payton of A to Z Sports pointed out that the Lions hosted Golden on a top 30 visit. Even if they needed to pull off another deal to get a position to snag Golden, Detroit may be targeting him with a replacement for Williams. If that's the case, moving up to 12 to draft an elite talent like Georgia defenders Jalen Walker or Mykel Williams would make a lot more sense. There's also the possibility that the Lions prefer someone like Arizona wide receiver Tet McMillan at the spot, though they could let the draft fall to them while selling high on someone who has proven to be unreliable. If something like this were on the table, it'd be hard for Holmes to refuse. For the Cowboys, they'd have someone to pair CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, pushing them back in the forefront of the conversation with the NFC East following a laughable 2024 season where they were, quote, all in. We're all in with these young guys. It'd benefit both teams depending on how Detroit feels about Williams' future, yet it hurt to send him within the conference regardless. It'd be interesting to see how active the Lions are in the trade for him the next few weeks. No matter what happens, no one should be surprised if they take a big swing. You know, and while I was reading this, it dawned on me. If Detroit is just blowing smoke, and this is all just pre-draft smoke screens, it could be signaling. It could be signaling to the rest of the NFL that the Detroit Lions are very high on Matthew Golden. We're definitely going to be trying to pull the trigger on him in 28. So if anybody else really, really wants him, you're going to have to come up to 28 to get him. I'm looking at you, Cleveland. I'm looking at you, Tennessee. Right? We're looking at these guys, top 40 picks. What are you going to give me? What first round, third round, and a pick next year are you going to give me, Brad Holmes, to move up to 28 to get Matthew Golden? Because if not, I'm going to take Matthew Golden. If not, I'm just going to take him. And then you guys are just going to have to deal with it. And then you guys are going to have to trade for J-Mo from me. You're going to have to pry him from me. Or you can just give me the picks that I want, and I'll continue to deal with Jameson Williams. Right? This could be a big smokescreen. This could be a bunch of Brad Holmes playing games. This could be what we're actually looking to do. And at this point, either option is not surprising at all. If we keep J-Mo and this is all a smokescreen to get more draft capital or just to fuck with people's boards, that makes sense, right? If this is an actual thing, then what we need to realize is that Brad Holmes is going to do that thing that he does, where Brad Holmes has this ability, man. Now, and we've seen it year after year after year, where Brad Holmes calls an organization. Now, in this situation, it isn't completely 100% the reality, but more or less, Brad Holmes calls an organization. He goes, hey, I've got this rusty can of old rotten beans. What will you give for me? And they're like, well, what do you mean? He goes, they're magic beans. And teams, for some reason, clamor over it. They're just like, oh, Brad Holmes has magic beans. We'll give you whatever you want, Mr. Holmes, for your magic beans. And then we give him the beans, and we get a huge haul of draft picks. Oh, I'm not saying Matt Stafford was that rusty can of beans, but they got a Super Bowl out of it. But damn, I mean, look at what we were able to do with this organization. So I don't know, man. I know that if Brad Holmes is able to deal J-Mo away, we're going to get a lot for him. And this is where I really, the business side of the NFL really starts to salt my nuts, and that is, do you want to move on from J-Mo? You know, do we want J-Mo to succeed? Flip of a coin, man. Flip of a coin. Look, if you're really, really high on Matthew Golden, then if he's the golden one, then yeah, take what you can get for J-Mo. This is all a smokescreen. Keep playing the game, but I think I'm ready for life after J-Mo. What do you think? LOL. Hell yeah. Over at the chat, popping up. Bye, J-Mo, Mr. Detroit City. Bye, J-Mo. That's kind of what I was thinking too, man. I don't think that. Bye, Felicia. I don't think anyone else is going to be really that surprised. Is it that surprising? Or have we all just convinced ourselves that J-Mo is this top-end talent that we cannot separate ourselves from? Is this a situation where, you know, and we've seen it happen with Detroit Lions players in the past, where they leave a bad organization with the Detroit Lions and they go elsewhere and they flourish, right? Look, if it were me, and I was in Brad Holmes' position, and so if I wanted Matthew Golden, I absolutely wanted him, had to have him, right? You're making every possible trade you can to go get the guy you want. If that's the guy you absolutely have to have, right? If it's not, though, if he's there at 28 and you want him and he's higher on your board than any other available player, then you pull the trigger on him. Either way, the chat over here, everyone, he can even spell top-end talent. He can't even spell top-end talent. Trade him, Mr. Detroit City. That's a good one. Jenna Hall. He can go and hopefully find a mentor to help him mature. Yes, exactly. And I think there is an organization that JMO can go to and actually thrive. And I think if Brad Holmes can wheel and deal his way for their second-round pick, and I'm straight up JMO for the second-round pick, does it not make sense to send him to the New England Patriots in exchange for their second-round pick? Over in the chat, as a newcomer who's only been watching for about 2 seasons, he hasn't stood out to me compared to others. Exactly. When you watch JMO in drills and stuff, when you watch him just physically compared to everybody else, it's very impressive what he's able to do, how fast he is, how quick he is. And he does have the potential to be a human highlight reel. But that's not necessarily what we do here in Detroit. And it comes down to draft capital. What can I get for JMO? I'm telling you, he needs to go to New England for that second-round pick. Oh, yeah. Then we could take Matthew Golden at 28. Oh, excuse me. We can take Matthew Golden at 28. And then we can grab our edge or defensive tackle early in the second round, right? We've done enough mock drafts to see that there will be a good amount of defensive end talent for us to take in the second round, right? That gives us 2 picks in the second round. Look, I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at the Lions taking Matthew Golden in the second or at 28, and then shipping JMO off to New England for their second round pick. What's so wrong with that? Or do the Jets come calling? Do the Jets come calling for JMO? Aaron Glenn's there. Their offensive coordinator was our assistant quarterback's coach. You know what I'm saying? The familiarity is already there. I'm ready for life after JMO. I am, and I think most people are too. I think we've all seen this coming. His first year was a wash. There's no reason to hold his first year against him. Then he got in trouble his second year. Again, you'd expect him to mature and grow from that, but we haven't seen the growth and development off the field. We have seen growth and development on the field, right? Look at what he was able to do after getting a full offseason under his belt with JG16 MVP, right? He had the best professional season of his life. So there is a lot of upside, but there's a lot of downside. I'm gonna sell high on JMO, though. I'm gonna sell high. Yeah, I'd go Golden and then trade JMO. Even though, oh man, I can't stop burping. Even though I am, thanks to Keitho last week, you guys know this. My guy in this draft for the Detroit Lions at 28 is Kenneth Grant. That's who I want. I want Kenneth Grant real bad. So, I wonder how much of this information is going to stick out to tomorrow in our mock draft Wednesday. It's because you guys know we like to end the week on a mock draft. So we're gonna start to wind this show down. I appreciate every single one of you hanging out, watching. Those of you that made it to the live show, really appreciate you guys hanging out there. If it weren't for you engaging in the chat, the show wouldn't be half as exciting as it is. So a really big shout out to the regulars, Jenna Hall, Mr. Detroit City, Chasing Chase, holding down the chat, keeping us going, letting me go off on some long-winded, out in the weeds conversations. But hey, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. That's going to be it for today. Let's see. We talked about the Miami Dolphins and what they could look to be doing with Tyreek Hill, and then we touched on the rumors around the Jameson Williams trade potentiality on draft day for the Detroit Lions, what we could possibly get and what we could be doing. This all popped up last week after last weekend's visit of Matthew Golden to the Detroit Lions. And JMO just kind of not really being what we need him to be at this point in his career. So a nice little conversation for you guys. Hopefully everybody has a good rest of your Tuesday. Hey, and would you look at that? The sun just decided to come out right as we're wrapping it up. Can't ask for much more out of that. Trying to have a good rest of your day, guys. Stay out of trouble. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. It's Tuesday. Eat some tacos, drink some tequila, or whatever it is that you do on a Tuesday. We're going to get ready to ship off, head to work, and I get to be Picasso today and paint more walls. How very exciting for me. Yeah. All right, boys. So, I've been Hat and Beard. You've been an attentive audience. Until tomorrow, when we have our mock draft, and it will be our last mock draft before draft week. You like how I stipulate with that? Great show, brother. Thank you, Mr. Detroit City. I just want you guys to know I looked into some metrics. We are the #1 live show for NFL and Detroit Lions content in the 10 a.m. block, exclusively broadcasting from his dead grandma's sewing room. How crazy is that? How crazy is that? We are the #1 show that meets all of those requirements. And it's because of you. It's because of you guys, man. It's because all you out there tuning in, hanging out. If you're watching it afterwards, go ahead and comment down below. I really appreciate it. So, all right, guys. I've been Hat and Beard. You've been attentive audience. Until next time, have a good rest of your day. Stay out of trouble. Bonga bonga. Frig off.